Okay, I hope that I look good, period. I really should get some water. Ooh, that was a good smack. Ooh, that was even a better smack. That wasn't a good smack. Okay. Is that really Nelly? Was I about to say Nelly? It's alright. What's going on? Okay, yes, I talk to myself. And what? Like you don't talk to yourself. You gotta talk to yourself. Period. You gotta hype yourself up. I live by myself. Well, in Jesus. Because Jesus is everywhere. He's everywhere. Period. Okay. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get through today. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. Channel Beyonce, channel Prince, channel Michael Jackson. I can do this. I can do this. What's up, y'all? It's Deron. I am here doing my very first story time. Like, this is crazy. If you don't know who I am, on Instagram, Twitter, IAmDeronJordan. I'm known as the king of the beehive. Beehive, what's up? Period. Period. On my Instagram, I am very entertaining, if I do say so myself. But for a lot of people, I want to be more than just associated to Beyonce. I want to be more than just, the guy that you like to find information about Beyonce. I want to do more than just what is on my Instagram page. So with that being said, I asked a lot of my followers last year and a little bit earlier this year, what did they want to see from me? So they wanted to see my everyday life, which I probably won't be doing because I'm boring. My life is boring, period. But they also wanted me to share story times and just to get to know me a little bit better. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. My YouTube page, it has an array of concerts, everyone from Beyonce to Mariah. I also do edits as well. So it's a lot of cool things that I will be doing on this page, on this channel. But I've been inspired to just tell you guys what's going on in my life right now. But with that being said, on my very first story time, I wanted to talk about the day that I met Michael Jackson. A lot of people know this story. A lot of people don't believe this story, but this is 100% true. Many years ago, I am 31 years old. I live in Atlanta. I've always lived in Atlanta. It is my favorite place in the world. And back in 1993, I believe, it was 93, 94. I believe it was 93. My grandmother worked for President Jimmy Carter. And I remember going to what is now called the State Farm Arena. Back then it was called the Omni. And the Omni, I remember me and my mom, we got on the train and we were riding to the Omni because President Carter was giving Michael Jackson an award for his immunization shots for underprivileged kids. And so my grandmother invited us and she said, you're going to be sitting in the nosebleed section, but I really want you to come. My grandma told my mom. So me and my mom got on the train And I remember us riding, and I remember us getting off of the train, and I remember standing on the side of the building, and we were talking in line, and my mom said, DJ, I was like 4 years old, by the way, 4 or 5 years old, but I remember everything. My mom said to me, DJ, you might be, you might get to meet Michael Jackson today. You might get to meet Michael Jackson. So, make sure that you're a good boy. And I'm a mama's boy. So I made sure that I had my hat on right and my suspenders on good. And I thought I was looking cute. But I remember there was these ladies who were cackling at us in line. They said, you're not going to meet Michael Jackson. Who does he think he is? Who does she think she is? That little boy, don't fill that little boy with lies. You're just going to see him just like the rest of us, and we're going to be screaming our heads off. But he's not going to get to meet Michael Jackson. We're sitting in the nosebleed section. So, sure enough, we went all the way up to section 400. And as we were sitting there, my uncle, who also worked for President Jimmy Carter, they worked for Jimmy Carter's library. So he came and found me and my mom. And he said, it was my Uncle Ronnie. He came and got us. And he said, I want you to come sit with us, with me, with his mom, which was my grandmother. He said, I want y'all to come sit with us. And so my mom was like, okay. So we didn't know where they were sitting, but we ended up going all the way down to the floor level. And we had to walk in front of Michael Jackson, President Carter, Emmanuel Lewis, who is known as Lil Webster. He's an actor. TLC was there. I believe it was Ronald McDonald. I remember seeing Ronald McDonald, being fascinated by Ronald McDonald. And I remember walking past Michael Jackson, and I was scared of him. I literally was scared of Michael Jackson. Any kid that saw Thriller would be afraid of Michael Jackson. I was afraid of him, period. Okay? But I wanted to be with my mom. I just wanted to cling on her. So I remember my grandmother was sitting behind Michael Jackson. And so I sat, me and my mom and my Uncle Ronnie, we sat next to my grandmother Gary, and we're sitting, and all of a sudden, about maybe 5-10 minutes later, Michael Jackson turns around and says to my mother, can I hold him? And of course he was talking about me. And so she said, of course you can hold my son, of course. So I remember sitting on his lap, and I remember him holding me, and other kids would come. There was little boys, there was little girls of all different nationalities. And they would just come and sit. I remember I sat on one knee. There was a girl sitting on his other knee, and there was kids like on the floor in front of us. People were performing for him. TLC performed for him. Ronald McDonald. Y'all don't understand. I'm a big boy, period. I was a big boy back then, not a big boy. But, oh, you're a big boy. That kind of big boy. So I was excited to see Ronald McDonald, period. Okay? Even though I'm sitting on Michael Jackson, the greatest entertainer that ever lived, I'm sitting on his lap, but that didn't impress me, period. But I remember all of the kids ended up going back to their parents or wherever they came from. I wanted to go back to my mom, so I went back to my mom. Then he wanted to hold me again, so my mom obliged and went back and forth. We went back and forth. And he made a joke to my mom and said, I'm going to call him Rubber Band. And she said, why are you going to call my son Rubber Band? And he said, because he goes back and forth between my lap and your lap like a rubber band. And I just was like, okay, whatever. It's Michael Jackson. Didn't think anything about it, y'all. And then it was time for him to go and receive his award. Jimmy Carter presented him with an award. And there was all the kids that were there. They ended up going back to wherever they came from, but he kept me. I was the only person that was on stage with Michael Jackson in Atlanta to receive his award. It was just me and him and thousands of people. It was the first time that I stood on stage. It was the first time that I felt an adrenaline rush like no other. And it was just crazy to know and to hear the screams. I remember the chants, Michael, people were falling out. People were crying. And he wasn't even performing. All he did was go on stage to receive an award, but people were losing their minds. I didn't think anything more about it. And I ended up going home with my mom. You know, we go and he goes backstage or whatever with Lisa Marie Presley, Jimmy Carter, everyone is pretty much gone. It's time for us to go. As we are leaving, we ended up seeing those same two women who were cackling me and my mom about meeting Michael Jackson. And that was the first time that I felt people recognize me. Everywhere we went in that vicinity, oh my gosh, that's the little boy. People were pointing at me and my mom. That's the little boy that was on stage with Michael Jackson. Oh my God, get his picture. That's that little boy that was with Michael Jackson. It was crazy. And the two ladies that were making fun of me and my mom, they ended up, oh my gosh, I can't believe you met Michael Jackson. Oh my gosh, how did you go from all the way up there with us to down there with him? You are so lucky. You're so blessed. Da, 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 da. And it just shows you how people think. If you think small, you'll get a small result. If you think amazingly big and bold, you will live big and bold. Period. So we went home. I didn't think anything else about it. Fast forward to the next day. My mother is a full-figure model. She was the first full-figure model in Atlanta, black full-figure supermodel in Atlanta, travel around the world. So this particular day, she had a fashion show. She was going to, I believe, Florida to do a fashion show. Well, my grandmother called her as she was getting ready, and she said, where is DJ? Get DJ dressed. And she was like, get DJ dressed. I have to go to a fashion show. Like, what's going on? I have to go out of town. And she was like, no. Get him dressed. Michael Jackson wants him to come to Six Flags with us. So my mom was like, what? Wait, hold on, what? So the very next day, after the concert, after the benefit concert, the award ceremony, Michael Jackson personally called my grandmother, and he spoke to my grandmother and said, who was that little boy that was sitting with you and that woman? And she said, that was my grandson. That's DJ. That's my grandson. And he said, well, I want to take him out to Six Flags with me. And so she said, okay, let me call him. So she called my mom, and that's what happened. So my mom tells me, DJ, I got to get you dressed. I got to go to Florida, but I'm going to get you dressed. Michael Jackson wants to take you to Six Flags. And so my mom was more excited than I was, I think, at that point. But I was more excited about going to Six Flags. It still did not dawn on me that this was Michael Jackson, this guy. So She got me dressed and she met up with my grandmother, and my grandmother took me to the Ritz-Carlton. My grandmother was with me all day. And we went to the Ritz-Carlton, and that's where we ended up meeting Michael Jackson. Lisa Marie Presley and Little Webster was with him. I remember going into the limousine. There was candy bars. He would ask me, "What do you want?" And let me backtrack a little bit. Michael loved children. So all of this negative press and all of these things that happened to him after his death, he said, she said, this lie, that lie. I met Michael. I was around Michael. Michael just loved children. I remember so vividly. I remember sitting on his lap and he would whisper in my ear, "I love you. Do you know I love you?" He loved the innocence of children. And everywhere that I go, every time that I talk to someone about this, I make sure that I let people know that he just loved children. At the end of the day, people have to believe what they believe. They're going to believe what they're going to believe, point blank in the period. But my spirit has always aligned with his spirit, and I truly believe that he just loved children. The innocence of children and the essence of childhood, period. But going back to the day we went to Six Flags, my grandmother was with me every single step of the way. But he was so fun. They closed Six Flags Over Georgia for Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley, and Little Webster. And at this time, no one knew that him and Lisa Marie Presley was together, but she was everywhere that he went. He loved her. He was always there with her. or she was always around him. And anything that I wanted to ride, I could ride. Any roller coaster that I could get on, I was able to get on. We rode this one roller coaster like 5 times, and he just kept laughing, and he kept telling my grandmother, he loves this ride, he loves this ride. And I mean, we stayed there all day. They closed the entire park down for just him. He rented it out the entire day. And the people that ran the roller coasters were his security guards, because they were so used to doing the roller coasters at Neverland. They ran the coasters at Six Flags and all the rides and attractions. If I wanted a stuffed teddy bear, he wants that. If I wanted a funnel cake, he wants that. If I wanted cake, cookies or candy or something to drink or whatever I wanted, it was at my beck and call. It was crazy. I was literally 4 or 5 years old, losing my mind. And then I remember Batman performed for us. Back then, they used to have Batman do like the stunt show, and things were blowing up. And I mean, he performed for me and Michael Jackson. It was just, looking back on it, I didn't realize what I was doing until, later on in life, I realized, oh my God, I got to spend not 1, but 2 days with Michael Jackson. So we get back home. He takes me and my grandmother back to the Ritz-Carlton, and I'm thinking that's it. I'm thinking, okay, I went to Six Flags with Michael Jackson, cool. Well, the next day after that, my mom, my mom got a phone call from his security guard, from his lead security guard. And he said, Michael wants to fly you and your son to Neverland. He wants you to come to Neverland in California, and he wants you all to spend some time there with him. So this was definitely in 93. This was actually in May of 93. My birthday is June 3rd, so I remember that. around that time was when things just got different. Um, Not for me, but for Michael, of course. Um, they ended up getting our social security numbers. They did background checks on me and my mother. My mom cooperated with whatever they needed from us so that we could go see Michael. Well, as we were preparing to go to Neverland, the first allegations in 1993 were brought up about him molesting children and all of that crap. Needless to say, I never got to go to Neverland because of that. And I often think about what my life would have been or could have been if I was around him more, if I got to be around him, if my mom and I had gotten the chance to go to Neverland, where would our lives be? But I'm thankful for those hours, those days that I spent with him. I'm very appreciative now as a 31-year-old to know that I was with the greatest entertainer of all time, to be in his presence and to just be happy. He was happy. And he lived in chaos and disorder and craziness, but I know that I brought him joy. Today is actually June 25th. And if you don't know what today is, this is the day that he passed away back in 2009. And that was 10 years ago. I had a really difficult day today, and I had to make some decisions about some things, and I just felt really heavy today. I felt really down and real low, and I didn't know why. And then I realized today is that day. And I'll always go back to the day that I found out that he passed away. And I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't want to cry. This is my first video. I'm trying to be happy. But I remember working at the airport. I was working at the airport, and I was working with my cousin at a sports bar. I was a server and a cashier, and I remember, if you've ever been in Atlanta's airport, every concourse has TVs of CNN on there. Some have Fox News, but the majority of the airport has CNN. And it was breaking news at Neverland, and an ambulance was rushed over there to someone that was unresponsive. That's all that they said. And I remember just breathing funny. I remember things just not making sense at that moment. I had to sit down. I remember I started breathing funny. I just remember it was just a really hard time all of a sudden. Once I read that, I think my spirit was trying to tell me what was going on. And then not too long after that, he was pronounced dead, and I literally ran down the concourse crying, people not understanding what was going on. And my cousin, he thank God my cousin AJ was there. He was trying to console me the best way he could. I called my mom crying. I miss Michael. I love Michael. I hate the way that people treat Michael to this day. He didn't deserve it. He is literally the king of pop. He will always be the king of pop. And I don't want to end this video on a sad note, but all I will say to you is stop judging people by how people look or by how people talk or what it might seem. You don't know what someone is going through. You don't know what people are really having to internalize on a day-to-day basis. We'll never know how it is to walk a mile in Michael Jackson's shoes. But one thing I do know is that he loved people, he loved kids, and he loved God, period. So with that being said, love on one another, treat people kindly. I remember I was so hurt by his death, and my mom was just as hurt because she knew what he meant to me. He was one of the biggest inspirations of my life. The week that he passed, I didn't have any pictures of that night. And my mom, I remember I was asleep, and my mom said, DJ, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. And so I ran into her room and I said, what's wrong? And she said, DJ, oh my God, I found y'all pictures. And I said, you found what pictures? And she said, of you and Michael Jackson, I found your pictures. And she went to this website that I don't even think exists anymore. But there were 2 pictures of me sitting on Michael Jackson's lap. And I had never, ever had those pictures. I knew pictures out there existed. My grandmother had some pictures, but they were black and white, and they ended up being missing. But I never had not only a picture of me and Michael Jackson, it was just in my heart and my spirit, but it was in color. And she pulled them up and we just started crying, and we couldn't believe that she found them. And she found them by searching the name of the event that he got the award for. And I'm just so thankful for that opportunity. I'm so blessed at being able to meet Michael Jackson, to meet Beyonce, to meet some of the most prolific people I've ever have been inspired by, or God is real. Don't make me catch it. He's real. And I'm so thankful. So that's my story. Quick and to the point. If you ever had a chance to meet Michael, let's celebrate him today and every day. If you ever got a chance to want to tell him something, tell him in the comments. Tell me in the comments, what did you think about my story? I have so many different stories that I could tell you about my life, and it's not all pretty, but I have some fascinating stories to tell you. There will be so much more to this channel, I promise you that. But if you have not subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Click on the subscribe button below. Also, follow me on Instagram, Twitter. I'm not really into Twitter like that, people. I mean, you know, it's on there for people, but Twitter needs Jesus. I mean, Twitter really, y'all need Jesus on Twitter, period. Okay? But follow me on Instagram at IAmDeronJordan _ and on Twitter at IAmDeronJordan. I love you guys so much, and I hope that you got something from this video, whether it was a laugh or two or Listen, I am Black history, period. I am Black history. Period. All right. I want to see y'all later.
I just might be a Black Bill Gates in the making. I want it. Start yellow on it. I dream it. I work hard. I grind till I own it. I twirl on my head.